Welcome. I'm Zach Neff, and I'm with Luca Delatry, and this is our second episode of The Dive. Today, we are going to jump into our backgrounds a little bit. We're going to talk about ourselves a little bit so that you can understand us a little more and where we came from and our backgrounds, and understand the information that we are providing you is accurate or our truth. And that is what we are looking to provide you guys. So, we're going to like I said, we're going to dive into where we've come from, how baseball connected us, the life that we shared before, after, and during baseball, and the lessons that continue to shape our path. So, Luca, I'm going to ask you, what are some pivotal moments in your life, especially early on, that shaped the way that you have developed your life and gotten to this point currently?
That's a loaded question. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things shaped me to who I am today. If we want to start
How about
from
we,
childhood,
yeah, how about we start
yeah,
young, real young, like when you was like
okay,
this big.
okay. So like when I was born,
Yeah,
um, I was a big baby,
exactly.
they say.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I grew up. I grew up in Wall, New Jersey, down right by the shore. Um, Come from two parents, athletic background. My dad was a professional football player. Um, and then he coached professional basketball and being the Nets my entire childhood. My mom was a professional basketball player in Italy. She grew up in Italy. She's first generation over here. She came over when she was 23. So, I mean, if you can't tell, I look Italian. I am Italian.
You speak it
I
too.
speak
I
it. I
remember,
speak it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's the only thing I speak with my mom. I made that transition about 2.5 years ago. I spoke it. I was one that spoke the most Italian of the three of my mom's three kids. I have two older brothers that are my half brother. My dad is previously married. Of the three of my mom's real like true kids, I'm the one that spoke the most because she didn't really speak English when she had me. So I went to preschool and they're like, here, he doesn't speak English, have fun. And there's like, awesome. All right, we got to teach this kid English. And Mrs. Clark, God bless her, she taught me English. Um, but I I grew up in that kind of environment my whole life. So yeah, I speak with my mom every day. That's the main language I speak with her. So I like to have that. I feel like a lot of people they have, when they're kids, they kind of speak a language here and there, and they kind of lose it, and it fizzles out. And then there's a lot of people that kind of, it's like, oh, I spoke this when I was a kid, and I just lost it. I know how to say a few words, and I just didn't want that. So a few years back, I kind of made the transition to really focus and take advantage of having her and speaking with her. And I know one day, I hope it's a long time from now, but I know I'll miss that. So yeah. But in terms of childhood upbringing, like I said, I grew up down Jersey Shore. My dad was always traveling with the Nets and stuff like that. So I grew up in that environment. I would go to practice with them often. I got to know a lot of the players. Got from a young age, just got to see what it looked like to be professional, routine wise, and all that stuff. So I was a kid, and I was around like Vince Carter, Jason Kidd, Richard Jefferson, Kerry Kittles, Kenyon Martin. A lot of older basketball names, but if you know the game, in the early 2000s, you know these names. Um,
I,
and
I
I was just
got, I got,
around that.
so whenever you are going to that as a kid, like I know when you first show up, you're probably starstruck, but over the
Yeah.
course of the time, you get to know these guys. And what was that experience like of like either, getting to know, like in obviously as a adult kid relationship, but like dive into that a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the way I can answer that is just to explain it or relate it to your life. I mean, when you were at spring training and you saw guys like Kepler and you saw guys like, I mean, you obviously knew Royce like close, but you see all these guys, Joe Mauer, and these are big name guys. But then after you what say a week or two there, and you see him consistently, it's like, oh, that's Joe. Oh, like, oh, that's Max. Oh, you know what I mean? Oh, it's just like it doesn't really make a big deal. Like you passing Sonny Gray on the side doesn't really doesn't change anything because it's just normal. So for me, even then, I didn't know what money was. I didn't really know about fame. I didn't know anything. All I knew is these guys are really good playing basketball. I was like, oh, that's cool, and they're really big. They're really tall. So like one thing I would do that pissed them off, dude. My dad, they'd be at practice, and I would just sit around, go in the locker room, and start putting their fucking shoes on. And these guys are like these. NBA basketball players, and I'm just some 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old just putting their shoes on, walking around the locker room. They're just like, dude, what is going on? But so to give you an idea, like I didn't really realize who they were. I just was
Yeah.
like, these guys are basketball players, and they're my dad's players. Um, but as I got a little older, I was really around it more so like around 9, 10, 11, 12. That was really the age I was really around it. I traveled with the team a few times, boot ball boy and stuff like that and whatnot. So I got to really be around it, and especially I got to learn from guys like Jason Kidd, just things that my dad would tell me about, him and all these things. And one of the things that really struck to me when I was a kid that I learned that I don't know if it subconsciously took over a lot of the way I thought of things, but one thing that I'll never forget is my dad told me is that every game day, basketball is obviously on your legs a lot. Baseball you are, but basketball is like basketball, soccer, football. I mean, you're on your legs and you're using them. Every game day he would do like a very intense leg day. Not like, thousands of pounds, but he would have like a quick 30-minute like high intensity leg day every game day. And like as a 10-year-old, I was like, Dad, what the hell are you doing? Why? You're gonna get fired. Why are you letting him do this? And I didn't actually say that to him, obviously. I was gonna get slapped at, but I didn't say that to him. But like he said to me, and I'll never forget this, he said he knows that if he does that, he'll be mentally ready to play. And no matter how fatigued his body is, if he's mentally ready, that'll supersede all fatigue. And I was like, whoa. So that, I mean, that alone right there, that's a lesson that's worth, a million words. Like I learned that is just like if you're mentally ready, if you're mentally confident, if you can trust your preparation up to that point, no matter what you're feeling, no matter if you're running on 48 hours, like obviously are you going to perform at your optimal? Probably not, but you're going to be fine. And little things like that I was just being around. Now, granted, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best of all time. So we have a very small sample size of the person we're talking about, but the principle applies to people in general. Um, but yeah, so I was around that a lot when I was growing up. My dad ended with the Nets back in 2012, I believe. I was in seventh grade. Um, and yeah, I grew up in that environment. My dad, like I said, freshman football player. So he just my whole life was very strict on just sports. He was more of a coach than a father, as bad as it sounds, but he really was. That's just kind of how he taught us. Um, so if you can imagine, my mom wasn't chaos. She's not, but if you had my dad's complete order, my mom's chaos, and they're trying to balance that out and grow us and raise us, and it was a little chaotic, I'll tell you that much. But I learned a lot of things, and it shaped me to who I am. So when I started playing, I was actually very scared as a kid. I consider myself an anxious person, I guess, anyways. So meditation really helps me. But as a kid, I was scared to play. I didn't play baseball until I was 7 years old because I didn't want to play in front of people. I went there, I was like, why are people here? And I'd freak out. I went to a basketball clinic when I was like 6, and I walked in and I walked out because there was a bunch of people there. They were like, go, come on. And I would just sit there next to my mom. I was like, I don't want to go. So like I was like I was very kind of I'm an introvert at heart, but I mean it shows even when I was a kid in those situations. So I don't know, really I came out of my shell when I was about 7 or 8, and I was really willing to go out and just kind of play. Um, and yeah, I just kind of kept at it. And
So
then
then,
I just started. My dad just had me started like doing little training things here and there. He was a strength conditioning coach with the Nets, so I mean that was he kind of got me into not like lifting weights hard, but he got me into doing stuff when I was like 11, 12. I was on a Pilates machine. I was 10 years old, little fat kid, and I'm on a Pilates machine doing core, and it's just like, what are we doing? But I mean, it helped. It taught me the core is the center of all function. So it taught me from a young age like to be able to brace and be able to use that as your main like it's your door hinge. Really, it's like there's nothing. Your body can't function without a strong base. So I learned how to activate my core from a young age, and like oddly, I didn't realize it's like subconsciously I was learning it, and it just kind of translated. Um, so I mean, I could go down the gauntlet of early life and all these things.
Okay,
But
I got a question for you.
yeah,
So moving into high school, obviously you have a lot of like professional experience behind you pre-high school, and you kind
yeah.
of become a big name in high school. And I don't know when you committed, I don't know all of that stuff, but you end up going to UNC. But at high school, what was that experience like? Did you have like a stardom it kind of in high school? I mean, I know you were like perfect game, national, and like USA team stuff, but take me a little bit through those 4 years of high school of ups, downs, good, bad, maybe great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Um, as bad, high school was great. I mean, in my high school I went to a private school. Up to my freshman year, there were four players from freshman that were freshmen that made varsity up to that point in the school history. My goal was to make varsity, obviously, like every freshman, and I was fortunate to make it. They gave me a chance. Now I wasn't the typical freshman. I was 6'4", 200 pounds, so like I had a little bit of physique to kind of went back to back it a little bit. Um, I couldn't hit save my life, but I mean, I figured it out. But I was playing third base and I'm pitching on varsity my freshman year, and it just, well, I guess when I kind of got that experience from a young age, playing with 18-year-olds, it's the first time I ever played with people like 4 years older than me. Um, I don't know. I guess confidence wise, I didn't feel like I was any worse than them. I felt that I was better, and then I kind of just grew. So high school has, I mean, I don't want it to sound
Did you get into
like
travel
cocky.
ball? Did you get into travel ball, or did you play other
Yeah,
sports too? Or were
yeah.
you
I
a
play
what?
basketball. I play basketball. Um, I enjoyed basketball a lot. I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed practicing baseball. Yes, I loved baseball, but I loved playing basketball. The difference was I couldn't train basketball the way I did baseball. I was obsessed with training for baseball and like getting better with the little small things. I couldn't sit there at basketball practice and go through plays and sit there and just do dry drills and have the coach grab you by the jersey and like pull you over. It's like, oh, you got to go here and he's gonna screen here and you're gonna cut. It's like, give me a ball and let me just go dunk and just let me go play. Like, let's play pickup. I couldn't do it, dude. I couldn't do it. So like it was just like not for. I loved it. I love playing. To this day I love just going playing pickup and just shooting around, which I know you love as well. Um, but in terms of the process, I love baseball. I love the process of baseball getting better. Um, and it served me well. But in high school, I don't know if you could say it hurt me or helped me going forward, but I didn't really experience much failure at all. Um, like I said, I was put on freshman varsity my freshman year, and then from there I kind of just went up. I ended up being the shore conference, like basically like our conference for the shore, the winningest pitcher in the history of the conference. Um, I was Gatorade Player of the Year my junior and senior year. Um, like this for the state, I was like the Tri-State Area Player of the Year for 2 years in a row, I believe. I was the Conference Player of the Year 3 years in a row, my sophomore, junior, senior year. Um, what else? Yeah, I
When did
did
you
all these
start
things.
playing? When did you start playing travel ball? Like, or did you not play
Yeah,
travel ball?
I did. I played with the Indiana Prospects um I believe I started playing my sophomore year. I played for like a local team I was playing with up until freshman year, I believe, and I kind of went to like the national stage my sophomore year. Um, I was with them until I believe the end of my junior year, and then I played for Eagle Shield for like the late summer, early fall of my senior year. But I committed um, I committed actually August 4th of 2014, so it was going right into my junior year. So August going into junior year, so right after my sophomore year, I committed. But in terms of playing, I could bring you to the stats. I believe it's just
No.
I dominated through high school. Really, that was like the main thing. It was nice for confidence. But then when I experienced failure in college, I didn't really know how to deal with it. I didn't really know. My identity was through being dominant. And I was fortunate my freshman year of college. I did perform. I was a Saturday starter as a freshman at UNC. Um, and then when I started experiencing injuries my sophomore year, I lost it.
Can I
It was
can I
tough.
slow you down? Can I slow you down a bit?
Yeah.
what was the recruiting process like, being a top talent, being like a Gatorade National Player of the Year? I'm sure there was not just UNC. I'm sure there was multiple. Was there any like interesting stories or interesting like value pivotal moments in the recruiting process? Because I know you commit and all that stuff, but I'm sure you had multiple visits, multiple coaches, like different
Yeah.
places you could have went, and I guess why did you end up choosing UNC?
Yeah. Well, I just want to stop you. I wasn't national player of the year. I was Gator player, like state player of the year. So
Sorry.
my no my I don't want to take away from Luke and Baker was 2015 and Kyle Muller was 2016. So I don't want to take away
Okay.
from them. But the process was good. It was fun. You know, it was like that. I everything I kind of dreamed of in terms of not like that not like the college football process of like doing all that, but it was fun going to schools and getting feeling wanted is I feel like is an innate desire, and that now that I'm a little more mature, I guess, and look back on it, it really is just it's not really necessary. It's not important whatsoever. It's a feeling of what it actually means doesn't matter. Of feeling wanted. Of it's just more so it's external rather than internal. So you're finding that value through external things with people wanting you. If you don't have people that want you, you don't want you don't. How do you feel about yourself? The goal is to feel good about yourself and feel powerful and feel strong and feel wanted and feel secure when no one wants you. That's the goal. If you rely on everyone else around you, it's like you're walking a tightrope, and I think that's kind of where I found myself as I grew up a little bit. But um, yeah, the process was good. I my final three was Kentucky, UNC, and South Carolina. Um, I'd ultimately decided to go to UNC. It was a dream school of mine always. Vince Carter obviously went there, so growing up around the Nets and stuff, that was always kind of my dream. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. So I remember I was like, one of my girlfriends in high school, or like I remember I was sitting in the car and stuff like that. Her brother was asking me something, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to UNC." I didn't even know I didn't know anything about him. It was my freshman year of high school, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to UNC." It was always a dream of mine to go there. They gave me a great offer, and I fell in love with the place. So I wish I had better experiences there. I went through a pretty hard time in my life there, um, but yeah, the experience is good through recruiting, and then kind of having that under my belt my junior and senior year, I think maybe helped me a little bit to free myself in terms of going out and just playing. I didn't realize how hard of a school academically it was, which I found out after the fact. But that challenge was actually it was beneficial, and the degree that I have from there holds a lot of value. So I'm very grateful for that it worked out the way it did. But I do want to say, I mean, I don't want to make this all about myself, like because we could talk about this for an hour straight. But I did write a piece. It's called "Alone on the Mound" at UNC. I wrote that my last year after a lot of the battles that I went through injury wise, but also more so mentally. So we can add that to the bio for this podcast, and if people are interested, you guys are more than welcome to go read it. I get texts pretty often, um, not often, but every so often about just
So you want to
people
we can
relating to people.
you want to talk about it a little bit?
Not really, honestly, not really. It was it was a tough part of my life. Like I said, I can give you. I've kind of come to terms with a lot of things that I struggled with, and I just so actually we actually did this together. For the longest time, I just kind of that part of my life I kind of blanked out on. I was in such a anxious state. I wasn't really cerebral. I wasn't really like I knew what was going on, but I wasn't really living in the moment. So for me to move on from it, it was tough, but it was easier than I thought it was going to be because the memory really wasn't there. It was just like on to the next thing, and like that was gone. Like I didn't really have much memories outside of like some broken hearts that was holding me back. Um, but yeah, that experience is traumatic, I guess. I mean, everyone has their own thing that they go through that what's traumatic may not be traumatic to you, and vice versa. So like that time of my life was tough. Um, And if people are interested in going and reading it, like I said, we'll link it to the bio, and it's about a 25 minute read. And at the time, my psychologist that I was working with at school, my sports psychologist, she said that kind of writing the journey out like that may help me, coping wise, and help me moving forward with things and stuff. I can't say it helped me a whole lot, but I know that it helped a lot of people. Um, from feedback that I got, for about a year or two after I wrote it, it was pretty constant. I was getting texts about it, just like, thanks for writing this. I put this in my team's group chat, and everyone was related to it. You have no idea. I didn't. It kind of gave me the first time in my life where I started realizing like, I'm not alone. People are actually going through shit. Like people actually struggle. Like I'm not the only person. And yeah, so that experience, I wouldn't be the person we are. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today. That we know I am if it weren't for that journey in college. I wouldn't be. So if I had signed in high school, I wouldn't. I think I would have missed out on that. So no matter the amount of money I could have gotten, I think the lessons that I learned was really it were worth it because it taught me a lot of things, and I feel like I'm wiser now than I would have been at 26 if I hadn't experienced all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna go read it after this. I just found out about it, 3 minutes before we started this. So
But
I
wait,
will.
I want to stop. I want to stop you. So I want to go. We never really talked about any of this kind of stuff. I only know that you're from Illinois. I know you went to Austin P. I don't know anything about you in high school. I don't know anything.
Okay.
I want you to go through some stuff. This is the first time here. We never really even went about like talking about this kind of stuff, early life stuff. So I'm curious, you know, high school, kid, childhood, were you working on the farm even as a kid?
Yeah, so I was born to a farm family, fourth generation. So every day I woke up, Grandpa was here, which was lovely, my dad's dad, and he was amazing. He was awesome. And then obviously Dad was out, and I had my older sister, so every day was um, a farm day. And obviously I went to school, I would did all that, but I would come home and I would jump in the tractor with Grandpa, or I would be in the summer. We would wake up, and I was always late. I was always procrastinator, late riser, so they would be halfway done through picking blackberries, but then I got out there and I'd start helping out, and or shucking corn, or like sweet corn to eat and stuff like that. So there's a lot of memories on the farm from driving tractors, riding with Grandpa. And then I don't know, like in the fall, my grandpa and my dad loved baseball, and obviously that trickled down to me, and I love baseball too. So if I wasn't in the tractor, if we weren't doing farming activities, we were throwing a ball, whether it be a football, whether it be a baseball. I always had a ball in my hand. That was what occupied my time. Like I remember even my sister was really athletic too, and she's 4 years older than me and played every sport ever. So we would make little games in the house, and like baseball games or soccer games. And if it was raining, if it was sunny, like we were playing basketball, we were playing whatever sport we could get our hands on. And I got dominated. My sister was bigger, stronger, faster.
How much
She
older is
beat
she?
4 years
Okay.
and just dominated me. So that part of my life, I don't remember it, but I do remember like being emotional and being upset, and throwing my little fits as a little kid because I wanted to win and I didn't know how to win. And so there was a bunch of tirades where I give my sister a lot of grief, but we've come closer, and she has a couple kids now, and where our relationship is really blooming right now. So I'm grateful for her, but and for the farm life. So the farm life was really interesting. I had a lot of time alone, um, per se, because I couldn't run down the street, or I mean, I could have, but I would have had to run quite a far ways to hang out with some friends. So like family was kind of all I knew growing up as far as like day-to-day life. Um, and then I mean, getting into ball, I started playing t-ball, baseball, and I like you said, I was just kind of good at it, and I loved it, and it came natural to me. I was a lefty, so I played all the left-handed positions, but I always dreamed of playing shortstop and catcher, and nobody would ever let me play them. Ever. I know that's kind of changing now, but it was a dream. My high school coach did let me play an inning at shortstop, and then I did play an inning at catcher, and those were great. I mean, I never forget those moments because I wanted to do them so much. But yeah, I mean, so growing up, it was a lot of, work, or not, I don't want to say working on the farm, riding on the farm, doing farm stuff, working. We have pigs, so there was a summer in high school where we were I think yeah, it was high school where we did slats. So I honestly, looking back now, I wish we could have done a little more physical labor as far as like throwing hay bales or like just different things like that to like get that core strength like that you talked about that your dad kind of pushed you into and because I never really lifted or anything even in high school. Like I was just naturally athletic, you know.
So when did you get that jump? When did you send me some pieces that you've written, journal wise and stuff about, and just about some journeys you talked about. Um, but it seemed like even in your writing, you were shocked you got drafted. You didn't seem like you were like that was something that you were for sure gonna do. When did the jump happen to where we could start even from Austin P to Mississippi State. I mean, that's a big jump. When
Yeah, and
were you a late bloomer?
yeah, and I'll start even a little bit before that. Like in high school, I was good at baseball, and we had this facility called P3, and it's still going now, and it's a great facility. But the guy that
That's where you
started
went
his,
last year, right?
yeah, yeah, and when it started out, it started out at the Pirates a little bit, and I was working with this guy. That was a summer travel team in high school in St. Louis area, and I was working with Brian DeLunas, and I love Brian DeLunas, and Brian DeLunas helped me out a lot, and RIP and bless his family, but he dealt with a lot of tough times, but him and Josh Kiesel, they were the first people that introduced like the foam rolling, the movement. We did a lot of, I think it's called PRI, like that those breathing exercises.
Yeah,
So
breathing. Yeah.
I worked hard at the game of baseball. I didn't work hard at the game of like strength training or like things like that. I was nat we kind of talked about it pre-podcast, but I'm a natural thrower. Like everything kind of flicks out of my hand. Like I never really had to think about it. So like I would say I was always a gamer. Like I never had that 96. I never had that I could spin it, I could change speeds and I could locate. Like I was what you call like I was a gamer. Like I never really had that standout thing except whenever you look over the course of a long season. Like in summers I would dominate. And it was weird in high school I would throw 82 to 84 and then I would get to summer and I would throw 80, 89, 90. And like I'll never forget it. We're in that perfect game tournament in Georgia, and
Hmm.
Wayne's my coach, and we get the first game. I throw a one hitter. I gave up a hit in the bottom of the seventh inning, a little dinker to right left field, and I was like, oh come on! But I was throwing it, and the talent there is real in all seriousness. And so we get rain for like the next 4 days, and the tournament becomes single elimination, and I'm the only guy that's pitched, and we're walking out of the hotel. And the coach is walking with me. I was like, "Yo, Wayne, let me pitch today." He's like, "Neff, we gotta let everybody throw." And I'm like, "Wayne, we're not gonna lose this one." And we were playing Michael Geddes. Michael Geddes was the number one rated player. He was throwing 100, hitting bombs, and I'm like, "We're not gonna lose." And Wayne's like, "You're not pitching." So this is the point in time where we're driving to the field. It's just my dad and I, and we get to the field, and I'm messing around with my buddy George, and Wayne's like, Neff, you're starting. And I was like, let's go. I get all hyped or whatever. And I was throwing 90 miles an hour like that game easy. And I carved him up and we won. And it was just like those instances, like I knew I was good. I never questioned that I was good. And I was just like, it is what it is. And then that fall, I believe, is like Austin P calls and I'm at Florida Gulf Coast in a fall tournament. And I borderline commit on the phone. I was talking to Mangrum and I loved everything about it. And like you said, that desire or like that, the feel wanted, I ended up at Austin P. And so
Mangrum.
like the
Jake?
Mangrum, no, Mangrum,
Okay.
Joel
Yeah,
Mangrum.
yeah, yeah.
He was a pitching coach at Austin P at the time. And Austin P was ranked like when they were recruiting me. They were top 25, like
Oh, wow.
4 years in a row. Like they won OVC. Like it wasn't like Austin P was bad. They were just a small school that was a baseball school, and it kind of fit my mold because I went to Jabot Catholic, which is I graduated with 64 kids. So that part of my life, On the baseball field, I was good, and I'll take you a little bit through my basketball career real quick. Is I was a JV All-American, but when the
Dude,
lights,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, JV All-American, but when the lights, when the lights came on for varsity, like I shrinked up, and I wouldn't play good, like kind of like that. I kind of related to you, like, oh, I don't want to play, I don't want to play. It was like, and I away from the court, I butted heads with the coach a little bit, and probably because he was right and I was defiant. Like he had a lot of wisdom, and if I would have listened to him and been open to those experiences rather than being defiant and wanting to do it my way, I probably would have learned more and had a little more success on the court and probably in baseball too. Um, so those experiences, like looking back, shaped me because like now it's like okay, like I need to, like the first book I read in rehab was How to Listen. I was like I didn't listen well. Like I might have heard what you were saying, but like I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't understand it. I didn't take it in and be like, okay, like let's filter it. Let's understand it. Why is somebody saying this to me?
Were they talking to you and you were thinking what you were going to say back already?
Or I just, I heard it and I was like, okay, like just that
Yeah.
defiant, like you can say whatever you want to me, but I mean, it helps on that core, that kind of that, I am
Yeah,
who I
yeah.
am. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it helps with the confidence. Like I was extremely confident, but I didn't make a lot of friends. I didn't make a lot of lifelong connections because I was kind of that,
Welcome
arrogant.
to the club.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like if people ask me about high school, like the schooling was great and like the it was great, but like for me personally, I didn't do what I needed, or not what I needed to do, what I could have done to like make those connections. And so like moving on, it like my life has been about connections. Like you talk about how I got drafted. It's like those connections, like I get to Austin P and then things happen with the coaching staff, and like the hitting coach is actually becomes a scout with the Twins. So like he knows my track record, and my numbers at
Mm-hmm.
Austin P my numbers at Austin P aren't great, but I go to summer ball after my junior year.
Is
I
it
I had
R or aren't?
are not at Austin P
Or
are
not?
not as
How'd
a
you get to
whole.
Mississippi State?
I'm getting there, all right. So
Okay.
3 years at Austin P, I graduated. Jabot helped me with like a lot of college courses, so I could graduate in 3 years. I did I was there was a coaching change and a lot of things, a lot of like turnover at Austin P at the time. So it was we were kind of up and down. I thought we were more talented at Austin P than we were at Mississippi State as a 1 through 9, not a whole roster of depth. Like we had some dudes at Austin P, like raw talent. Um, it was actually really fun to practice and watch BP and stuff like that because like these guys were, I mean, nuking balls, and that's not taking away anything from the Mississippi State guys. Like they deserve to be there, no doubt. But I go to summer ball and I have no plans on returning. I was like, I kind of like hated school at the time, didn't want to do school, and so I was like, I'm just gonna, play this last year of summer ball and go out and have fun. And I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I'm
Is
putting
this, are
up
you talking, because are you saying you didn't want to go back to Austin P or you didn't want to go back to school because you graduated and you were done?
both,
Okay.
both, and so
You
excuse me,
you're graduated already. You got your bachelor's at this point.
yeah, in 3 years, so 2014 to 2017, I had my bachelor's.
And you had 1 year of eligibility left, but you're kind of like, eh,
Yeah, I was done.
okay.
Yeah, and that year, our grad assistant, his name was AJ Gara, at Austin P, and we're sitting there, and he comes over for a cup of coffee at night, and so we're sitting there, and I was like, "Yo, if you go anywhere cool, like call me." And he kind of like jokes around. He's like, "Go put up some numbers." So I left for summer ball to Fayetteville, North Carolina, Coastal Plains League, and I dominated. Video game like numbers. I think I led the league in strikeouts. I led the league in wins, and I only played 3 quarters of the season. Like we had 2 or 3 guys there that were, I mean, we enjoyed our time together, and two, I mean, we dominated. We won. We kicked people's doors down.
Well, that makes it a little fun environment.
Yeah, so right, and it's easy to show up, and it was fun. And
Yeah.
I'm on the bus, we're playing cards, and I'm on the way to the game, and my phone rings. It's AJ Gara. I hadn't talked to Gara in a year plus, and I knew he's a grad assistant now at Mississippi State, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, going to a game. He's like, I got a quick question for you. You want to come to Mississippi State? And I was
Mm.
like, yeah, I'll be there. He's like, okay. He's like, you want to call your parents? I was like, I'll tell him after we get off this. And he goes, okay. And he goes, there's just one thing. You got to go pass the GRE. And I'm like, what's the GRE? He's like, well, you got to get into a master's program here at State. And I was like, okay. I was like, what do I need to score? And he tells me a score. And I was like, okay. And school is, I mean, this is late summer. So school is 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away. So I get off, I call my parents, and I was like, okay, well, I need to sign up for the GRE. So I signed up for the GRE, and I took it like a week and a half later, minimal study. And I was like, yo,
Is this like
I
a
don't,
glorified SAT?
yeah, it's like to get into master's programs for business. And he, like the score he said, I think I got 5 or 10 underneath it. And I called him and I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I passed. I don't know if I failed, but I don't know anything that was on that test. And he was like, well, just send your score over. We'll see what happens. And so, by the grace of God, I got in and I started my program. Everything was online because everything was late there at Mississippi State. But Hindu actually came to watch me. That's the coach that pitching coach at State at the time, and he came to watch me in the All-Star game at Summer League, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, I had to pick up all my things from Austin P, and then I trucked it down to Starkville, Mississippi, and that was kind of the takeoff career for me a little bit, as far as you're there, like
Yeah.
you can do this. So
Hmm.
um, that kind of happened, and then 2018 was amazing all the way around. It started off a little rough. Like I'm not, I mean, I'm extroverted, but it takes me a little bit to warm up and getting into an environment. So, and understand, like they're prestigious. I didn't know what I was walking into at State, but they were injury prone. They had a lot of guys down and TJ. So like they were like, hey, you're gonna pitch regardless, whether we're good, bad, or ugly. It didn't matter. Like he's like, you're gonna come here and pitch. So fall goes on. I honestly I didn't pitch much in the fall. I had a lot of arm problems or a lot of arm fatigue, I guess. I don't just didn't throw much. Like my bicep was acting up and the time off, and I come back for the spring and we kick it into gear. And my first couple outings were rough. We were in Corpus Christi. I gave up a couple home run or a home run that was game changing, and then we were at LSU and I gave up a home run on a tie game and things like that. And I wasn't throwing that well, and I get two starts, midweek starts, and 6 innings apiece, no runs, 1 or 2 hits, and it like I kind of just fall into place, and I just started to have fun and enjoy it, and and all of a sudden it becomes real, and I'm pitching in big moments, and Super Bulldog weekend rolls around, and it's where the football team has fall practice or spring practice, and like there's a lot of people, and they're building the stadium, and we're playing Arkansas number one at the time, and we played a doubleheader on Saturday because of rain, and I pitched the 7th inning of the game one, and then I pitched the 9th inning of game two, and that 9th inning, it felt like the stadium was shaking, and I was like, man, I can do anything, anything, and that's kind of like where my like I remember like walking away from that moment. I was like, man, like I'm here, like whatever happens after this is I'm okay with. Like it became like a peace within me that my baseball career is what it is. Like I no longer had that I got to do this. I have to prove myself. I need like it was there. Like I felt a part of something. And then so we go on to the regional. Oh well, I mean, we dominate the teams that are better than us, but we're losing to teams that we shouldn't lose to. I think we lose to McNeese State, but we take 2 out of 3 at number four Ole Miss. We sweep Arkansas. We sweep number one Florida at the end of the year. So we're 15-15 in conference, and we get a regional bid in Tallahassee. So we're going to Florida State for a regional, and we open up with Oklahoma, and we lose 20-10. and I pitched that game. I gave up a couple runs late when the game was borderline over, in my opinion. But I mean, looking back, I mean, it was never over in a regional. And then we end up winning four in a row. We have McNamee's huge walk off
Yeah.
on Drew Parrish where he goes nuts, and that moment was surreal. I mean, I could tell that. I could sit there and tell that story over and over and again. And then we go to Nashville for the Super Regional. That those were the most fun three games. I met up with Austin Martin. He was at Vanderbilt at the time, and I was like, dude, I don't know about you, and I know we won, but I've never played in three better games than those. We walked off game one, we got walked off on in game two, and then we won in extra innings in game three to go to Omaha and Vanderbilt. I was like, those three games were electric. I pitched in two of them, got walked off on in game two, like things like that, and it no longer bothered me. Like I was in love with life. I was happy. I was enjoying it. And then backtracking just a touch is on our way to Vanderbilt, the Super Regional. I go up to talk to Gara, who's there, and we're talking and we're shooting the shit. And I'm on the phone with one of my former Austin P buddies, and I think Casey Predlow, and my phone starts ringing, and he was like, "Hey, you might want to take this." And it was Coach Dunbar, who is now a scout for the Twins. And so,
You mean who's now meaning like at the moment he was a scout for the Twins?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I answer the phone. He's like, "Hey, Neff," and I was like, "What's up, D?" He's like, "We just took you in the 31st round. Like, welcome, congratulations, you're a Twin." So like that was my elation on the way to Super Regional at Vanderbilt. So like now I'm even more validated.
So
Like
you
at the
weren't even thinking draft.
had no idea. You know what I mean? I had no idea. No, I would honestly like at that junior season at summer ball, I was done. I didn't have any like I no longer had a future thought about baseball. Like when I was a kid, all I thought about was being Randy Johnson, you know, pitching in the big leagues, World Series. And then when I let all that go, it kind of, it kind of snowballed. So then I get drafted by the Twins, and kind of the rest is history. I mean, I just continued to play like I was playing at state. Like I was, looking back, I was borderline magnetic because like my whole goal was to have fun, and all I was doing was having fun. So I don't want to say everybody wanted to be around me. That's not true, but like the people that are around me were also having fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I carried that into pro ball, and I had my ups and downs, no doubt. But then, like I would say, I had more ups than downs. Like as far as failure, like I still was pitching. Like I didn't change who I was. I was throwing 70% sliders, and nobody could hit it. So it was, I mean, my preparation was minimal to say the least. And then Tommy John hit, and that's like, as I alluded to, kind of where mentality change, life change, career change, a lot of things happen. So Tommy John was kind of my like bang moment of like implosion, explosion. What happens now?
Why? Why didn't you just? I'm not trying to say it was an easy. You could have just done this. You've been fine. But like, just me asking, like, what was it in you that didn't just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna, wait 18 months and just get back on track"? Like, what was it? Was it the fact that you didn't think you had security with the Twins? You didn't feel like you're gonna have the same opportunities. You were in Double at the time when you got hurt. What was it?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of it. I had a lot of success, but it wasn't right away. I mean, there were the first couple months of Tommy John. I was like, oh shit, like I'm losing my chance, and then I'm on social media and I'm watching the guys behind me move up. So then, like the first couple of months, and then deleting social media, getting away from that,
Yeah.
and then like the growth aspect of myself is working on myself, figuring myself out, and like that part really started to evolve and take off, and
Hmm.
that part during rehab, and then I don't know, it was that following year. So that year ends, and then I'm back in Fort Myers in rehab, and then so 2023 starts, and I was like, I'm ready to go. Like they're like, I was 12 months out of surgery, March, which is the beginning of spring training. And I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like
I
I
mean, when I
would
met you,
like,
you were like that. I met you April of 2023, and you're just like, get me the fuck out of here, dude. I'm good. You didn't even throw a live yet, and you're like, I'm good. Get me in a game, bro. You threw
yeah,
a live, you're sitting like 85, and you're like, get me in a game. I'll be 92. You're
yeah,
like, that mindset. You're just like, get me out of here. I'm good. And I'm like, dude, you're. I didn't say this obviously. I was like, he's not even. He hasn't even started the game yet. What do you mean? What is he talking about? You're like that.
Yeah, and I believed it.
I
And I
know you did.
walked and I walked into the training room one day, and the Twins were really good at making you feel like you mattered or you were valuable. And one day I walked in and not a single person came up to talk to me from the Twins organization. And I
When
left.
was this?
It was, I want to say it was June. I'm guessing June of
2023?
June of 2023. It was when I had moved back into the academy out of my apartment, and I walked back in there and I was like, I'm getting canned. Like I had that, like I was like, it's over. So then the next day, like I'm talking to Willard and I was like, what do I got to do to get back to the field? And they're giving me a lot of runaround answers. Oh, you just got to hit 96. And I was like, I'm over that game. Like I played that
This
game
before or after the Velo camp thing?
right before,
Right before Velo
right,
camp.
right before. So I was like, I've played that game before. Like I'll do whatever you guys want, but like I know it's not going to change anything. So they ended up keeping me for another a month and a week. And I did the velo camp. I did this new weight training. They had me on the French contrast, dude. And I mean, I poured my heart and soul into it. Like I wanted to be a big leaguer just like everybody else. And like I'm watching my buddies and I'm talking to my buddies, and I mean, they're all debuting and they're all like doing this and like playing in the fall league. I'm like, man, like and Royce joins us. Like Royce gets hurt with his ACL and he's working his way back. And I mean, Royce and I are having battles, like weekly, twice a week battles on the mound. And like, I don't want to say this to sound like perverse, but like I was dominating Royce. And like, yes, so he was making contact, he was doing that, but I was getting him out regularly. And so it wasn't like a lack of success. Like it just was everybody was I just never got another chance to play. And then I got released and I came home for a couple of days and I ended up getting picked up by York and playing indie ball. And again, I didn't have great success. I was riding the ups and downs. Like,
Hmm.
it was my first real game competition out of, TJ. And there were days where, I mean, prior to TJ, I never felt bad as far as throwing. Like, I never had a day where I was like, I wonder if my arm's gonna hurt. Like, my arm never really hurt. And after TJ, I would get like stiffness or soreness or like like heavy uncomfortableness, like questioning myself. And if you have that opinion on the mound, like I don't know if you've been there, but I mean
Yeah.
the results are far from desirable.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've been in places and I mean, that was based on my college career. I was like, I don't know if I can throw this breaking ball right now because my arm was gonna hurt. I should probably throw a change up here.
Right.
Like that's where I was at. So I'm
And,
sure you're the same place.
yeah, so when you're afraid to throw something
Yeah.
and you're facing elite level competition, it's,
Yeah.
so like my journey is full of connections. Like people have helped me get to where I desired to go in ways that I've never expected. So like that is my journey in a nutshell. And like my gratitude for those people. Even today I reach out I do my best to continue to reach out to those people that have, provided a stepping stone for me to keep going. And I hope in the future that I can do the same.
I hear a lot of parallel. Ali, I don't know if you thought about this and maybe you have. I see a lot of parallel with the way you spoke of your summer ball experience before you went to Mississippi State and your experience this year with York. Because
Yeah, exactly.
both of which not like I'm not trying to call you out, but it seemed like this year you knew if you didn't get picked up, you were on the fence. Like that day in New York we had together, like you told me flat out, you're like I'm done if I don't get picked up this year. So like you knew that going into it, but then every time we spoke and stuff, it was just like this team's amazing. Showing up to the park is amazing. These guys are unreal. Like we're just electric. We're winning. We're good, and it's fun to play. And then you talk about your experience in summer ball that year, and it's like it seemed like the mentality was the same, and you had obviously you were enjoying yourself. I'm not sure, like if you can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I've always been a winner. Pr that is the truth of my past experiences. I'm not talking about the future, but in my past, I've won a lot. And so, like, the parallel between those two is the mindset's the same. Is everybody in the summer ball was allowed to be themselves. So everybody showed up and played to the best of their ability because they had no fear of what was going. They just knew that we were enjoying ourselves.
Yeah.
So like taking that through all the locker rooms, like from the past, we started winning. Like the only time I really didn't have success was at Austin P, and that was because I was afraid to be me. I was afraid to be the leader. I was afraid to step up. Like I'm not the superstar. Like I consider myself more of the glue guy, but like I'm the behind the scenes. Like hey, let's get going. And then in York, like what we're doing now, what we have, that connection that we have, I started to develop in the locker room with certain guys, like from Dave Washington. Like Dave was a quiet guy, but we read books together. We read like again, we read Thinking Fast and Slow, and we could converse about that, and then that leads into talking about the game, talking about ball, and like, and then Donovan Casey, like Dono, we're sitting there in Lancaster dugout, and Dono's like, dude, Neff, I'm struggling, and we sit there and we just have a conversation, and he's like, and then he's like, dude, I'm feeling better, and goes out and gets the knock and the game winning hit. And it's like I'm not a like it's not me that's doing that, but like just the ability to be present and to be real with the people and connect and not have the care of the world of like who's listening or what's going on. And then those relationships develop and deepen and the team becomes bonder. And you're not gonna win. I didn't love everybody on the team, but the guys I did love, like, man, we had success after success, and then our team, like showing up to the field was easy because like everybody was there for to win. Like it didn't matter about anything else. Like it didn't matter if you were out in left field or if you were in the stands. Like we knew that everybody was there just to win ball games, and that was the only thing that mattered to us.
Remember that conversation we had in New York?
Yeah, I do.
Sounds a lot like that.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
conversation, to give everyone listening like an idea, what we're talking about was basically how you optimize. If you could optimize a singular team, what would it look like? And what we spoke of basically, we said we got kicked out of the restaurant. They literally kicked us out. They said that we could not
We were
sit
there.
there any longer without ordering food. And I was like, fuck off. Do we need to order a coffee every 15 minutes to stay here? What is going on? They literally kicked us out.
Literally.
Um, but we were sitting there talking, and what we came up with was basically the idea that the talent, of course, matters, but talent projected, where you start, where you finish, are two different things. But if you have every player focused on being the best version of themselves in that moment, and you could do that through nine positions, right? Granted, you hope you have the entire team do that, but active playing is nine plus the bullpen, but say nine. That is what a great team looks like, because that's the beauty of baseball. Because you can have that in basketball, and physicality wise may just take over, and you just get beaten. Same with football, whatever. Baseball, if you have all these guys that are just performing and trying to be the best version of themselves in that moment, mentally, physically, that's what the great team looks like. And doesn't the talent matters, but that team that does that, in my opinion, will win 6 to 7 times out of 10 over a team that's just full of talent. And that's the conversation we're basically having. And it's just like, well, how do you create that? How do you create the environment to have a team of where they're only thinking in their mind about how am I going to be the best version of myself, not the guy next to me, not the other person. How am I going to be the best version of myself? And it starts internally. It starts with your routine on the field that brings you to the field, and then of course it brings you to routine on the field and all that. And that was my problem in college. I asked you before about like the draft. You know, you never thought about it. That's the only thing I thought of. Like when my elbow hurt my sophomore fall, I got back. I was with the national team my freshman summer. I get back. I'm riding the high. It's just very similar to like basically you were talking about your entire year at Mississippi State, really. But like that's kind of how I was feeling come back after my freshman year. And my elbow, like my first day throwing, my elbow like started killing me. and I had some shoulder issues that I got a hydrodissection. It's called where basically they just I don't know what the hell I did. They just got rid of scar tissue, and I guess I got some extra range of motion. Whatever. I started feeling it immediately right my elbow. First day throwing, I was demoralized, and as it progressed, the only thing I thought of was like, well, what are scouts gonna think? First thing I thought of. That's how I thought, and it just got worse. And it's like as the season kept closer and closer, I got announced the Friday starter, the opening day starter. It's like, well, my elbow is killing me. I can't throw. It's like, well, I can't say no. What if I miss opening day? I'm a sophomore. Like, what if the draft is next year? How am I going to miss opening day? When am I going to miss the first 3 weeks of the season? What if I'm out for 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks? What are they going to think? Is my draft stock going to go down? Those are the conversations going in my head. Like I was offered this much money out of high school. What if I get offered less? What if I'm not a first round? What if I'm not offered in the first round again out of my junior year? What's going on? Like what happens? And it's all this shit going on. Like how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to help my family with this? How you know what I mean? Only thing I was thinking of was draft and money. The only thing. And like I said, like one of the things I learned from that article is that I wasn't the only one. So to tie this back to what we're saying, it's like, how do you get a bunch of players to? Because you're going to have at least one that was as messed up as I was. How do you get him to get out of that? How do you get him out of that mindset and to truly focus on this? Because unless you experience, the hell that I went through, for example, just speaking internally, it's like that's how I learned to what the benefit of what we're talking about right now, being just your best self in the moment. That'll take care of everything else.
I,
The future
and
will come. The future, the best things will happen if you just take care of now. But if you've never went through that, you don't know what the downside is to that, right? You won't experience it. So how do you truly get a player to understand that, and then get 9 of them or maybe 30 of them to truly buy into that?
so my answer to that is a lot of it is getting out of your own way,
Yeah.
you know? So,
How do you get an 18, 19, 20 year old? Because we're speaking college,
uh,
you know?
okay, I think that's where coaching excels. But like, the only thing I can speak on is my experience. So like the conversations and the way that it was going in York was like an openness, like how do I like Dono and I would sit and we would sit in the locker room and I don't think he would mind me sharing this, but his mind was elsewhere. He was worried about other things. Like he has a family and kids and things like that, so his mind was preoccupied. And so like my whole thing was with him is like I know that's hard. I don't have that situation, but I know it's hard, but we can communicate about it and we can talk about it. So now he's talking about it, and it's like, okay, how do you get present? Like that's the whole goal. That's baseball. So now we're connecting. Like we're talking about real things. We're not talking about, the I don't know, what's for dinner, and we're diving into like how do we get better? And it's like the aim, like we talked about, the aim is to get better. The aim is to succeed, or the aim is to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
So now that he has that aim, we can communicate on a daily basis, and then you let him have free reign. Like you let him envelop into what he wants it to be, rather than like constricting it and trying to mold it into who I am. Be like, dude, these are the things that have helped me. Like
Hmm.
in rehab, like I picked up longboarding because it was the only thing I could do. Not the only thing I could do. What One of the things I could do just to get my mind off of playing ball. So like I would spend 4, 5, 6 hours longboarding some days, and people were like, you're crazy. Like I went on a 40 mile, or not a 40
Yeah,
mile.
you told
I
me.
went on like a 20-mile loop one day, and people were like, dude, you're nuts. Well, I didn't
You went
tell
all the
many
way up to
people.
North Fort Myers or something, right?
Yeah, and like those experiences, like on the board, I wouldn't even take my phone, dude. I would just ride. And I'm like, so what I learned from that is if I was on the board and I was new to the board, if I was thinking about something else, if I was thinking about baseball, I would trip and fall, or I would fall off the board. So it was like, and then I would come back and journal about it. So like my whole goal of longboarding was to learn about me, literally, was to do something hard that I've never done and then learn about it and get and understand what it brought to me. So like to relate it back is like in order to create that team, you have to have an open environment in the locker room that everybody can feel free to express themselves, but then have a leader or a group of leaders, preferably a group of leaders that are all aiming upwards. That way, if I don't relate to you, then maybe Dono does, or maybe Rudy does. And like, so the message may be different, but the message is still the same, right? Everybody's aim is to be the best version of
Well, that
themselves, so you can win a
exactly,
championship, right?
exactly. Because that's the thing is the winning the championship is not the goal. It can't
The
be the
way
goal
exactly.
because if that's the
But
case, you're not gonna you can't build it. You can't build anything that's gonna last. Because if the championship's the goal, then every year you restart.
the
If
product is
anything,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, no, no.
I, I was going to say the product is to be the best, and the result of the product of being the best is championships. So like in a roundabout way, it is the goal.
Yeah, but championships is yeah, it's plural.
Yes, yes, correct, correct.
Yeah. I definitely. I mean, that's kind of the consensus we came to that day. It was just like the upward seeking. Like if you have to have you have to have a team that's basically collectively seeking upwards. And what I realized through my career was that when I was seeking upwards outside of baseball, baseball got better. Baseball is just a byproduct of what my work was off the field. That's really what it boils down to. The closer I got with God, let's say, the better my let's say my belief got, and um, more so what my priorities were and what I was striving for. Baseball got better when I focused on making myself proud, making God proud, and having that be my main focus. Baseball got better. It was just it canceled out a lot of noise. So like I feel like that's if you have a bunch of guys that can buy into that process, I feel like that's worth God
I
knows how
mean,
much talent people may miss out on.
our locker room culture was like, I don't want to say wild, but it was like so segmented. We had guys meditating or napping. We had guys reading, and then we had guys blasting music. We had guys out playing basketball. Like it was freedom as far as like expressing what you wanted to do. We had guys lifting, we had guys getting treatment, like doing movement stuff. Like everybody, like whatever they were doing, it felt like they were trying to get better, like individually and as a group. And like we had a lot of like, we had some horrible things happen to us as a team. And I mean, I don't, I mean, it's going to be another 15 minutes. Do you want to continue? Should we continue or just save it for next time?
Where we at?
Hour two?
I mean,
So, I mean, at York, we were in Southern Maryland, and a gust of wind took a bouncy house over this railing, and two kids were hurt and one passed away. And so,
really? At the game?
yeah, at the game. So game gets postponed, two or three games get postponed, and like things like that. So like those things like had to bring us together because we could have let them tear us apart or bring us together. And I remember like we had to go back there one like in a month or something. And I was like, guys, like I know this sucks. Like in a group message, it was a group message. I was like, I know this sucks, but we like there's bigger things out there than us. Like the families of the kid that passed and the kids that hurt. And then Rick does a great job of bringing the kid in and like enjoying us. And like we all have to like, like not all, but like have to, but you get to smile and the kid loves baseball. And like people are giving him bats, people are giving him balls, we're signing things. And the kid is just jumping around and doesn't want to leave the locker room. And then like they're like the family that obviously the kid passed, it sucks. Like your heart goes out for those people, and you just have to show up to show the strength to show up, you know? So like
I didn't know that.
those things, and like I thought, and like comma, like a little bit of a pause, like magical things happen to magical teams, and like at the end of the year, like we had some magic, like real magic, like the last game of the season comes down to our guy. Our Wash was kind of struggling at the time, mentally, physically. emotionally, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just the course of life. And he comes up with two outs, bottom nine, with a runner on third base in a tie ball game, and he walks it off. Or maybe we were down. I think we were down one, and he ends up hitting a single down the first base line, and we win. And it was just that magic that made it all worth it. Like he had gotten us to that point with his play, and then the ball it comes full circle to him allowing us to, like, succeed. And that man's been through it all, and I mean, bless that man's soul, honestly. But like there was a lot of like ups and downs. Like we spent a week, 2 weeks with no AC, and the locker room was 85 degrees plus. So it was cooler at night outside than it was in our locker room. So like I don't know if you can picture that. Like if you and we it was a 2 week homestand at home, and there's no airflow. So like people are trying to get lifts in. Like our locker room encompassed a training room, the locker room, the shower, the weight room. All it encompassed everything. There was no like different rooms. So like the whole building was hot, and you add 30 guys to that, like sweaty men. It just gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and like that could have erupted, and everybody could have been like, okay, I'm done. Like you're not getting paid to deal with that. So like and we were winning, like we were kicking butt through that. And like I said, we had a lot of great character people that maintained their cool during you
Hmm.
know not cool times.
That's
And
crazy. I didn't know about this story. All the times we talked, I didn't hear about that too.
yeah, it's hard to talk about, honestly. Like I feel like my heart goes out to that family, the Hicks family.
Me
you
too,
know
man.
I, I didn't really know what to say about it.
Yeah, that's insane.
But do you have anything else, or you want me to wrap this up, put a bow on it?
I didn't know. I mean, if we're already over, I really wanted to get the trauma journaling.
But
We can say that for another time because I feel like we talked about we
well,
talked about some like our hard struggles, and I feel like the trauma journaling ties right into that. As a matter of fact, some of the trauma journaling makes it ties into part of your story, especially at least the story that you sent me, which you actually ended up being what you wrote. It had a lot to do with your experience in Mississippi State, especially the final month. I'm not
yeah, it
necessarily
did.
to get into it right now, but
Well,
yeah, if we can at least get into that and maybe at least next week start with that and have a tie off. But um, I feel like it ties a lot into what we've been talking about to a certain extent.
absolutely. And you're right. So, I mean, we can end off there. And well, I'd just like to thank the audience for taking your time and listening to us and our stories. And I'm grateful to share. And I mean, I'm open to sharing anything. And that trauma journaling, maybe we can, dive into Alone on the Mound a little bit and,
Yeah,
open up. But that's up to you.
yeah,
And I don't want to force anything. But next time we can definitely talk about that for sure, the trauma journaling. And I think something that's new to me, and I would like to talk to you about next time, is as Joe Mazzulla, the head coach of the Celtics,
hmm,
his mindset on elite thinking. So um, I encourage you guys to keep listening, and thank you for your support. And if you can, help us out in any way and sharing with the people. So thank you for your time. And Luca, I will be talking to you very shortly.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Splish splash.